so fun. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I can barely play my instrument.
Blink-182 are a punk rock dividing line. Green Day's Dookie and The Offspring's Smash proved that a punk rock band could, with the correct pop inflection, sell several million records. But Enema of the State showed that songs about girls, partying and prank phone calls were not only lucrative, but also ripe for repetition. With their preference for video clip nudity and gross out stage banter, alongside American Pie and South Park, Blink were the zeitgeist of 1999, and their blockbuster single that reflected on this immaturity would blast them way beyond the punk rock community. This is the story of how What's My Age Again kinda ruined punk forever. By 1998, Blink-182 were well on their way to become the next Green Day. Damn It had become a massive hit on modern rock radio. Parent album Dude Ranch had quietly reached gold certification, their second record selling 10 times the amount of their debut in only 8 months. Composed of dual vocalists Mark Hoppus and Tom DeLonge on bass and guitar respectively, and Scott Rayner on drums, Blink-182 were a new breed of punk rock band. Whereas 3 years earlier, Green Day were tormented by the accusations of selling out from their Punker Than Thou Gilman Street fanbase, no such ethical dilemma plagued Blink when they signed to major label MCA in 1996.
I'd like to make a lot of money and credibility. People make so much out of something that's just the band trying to get ahead and get its music to as many fans as possible.
Sessions for their major label debut would start in December 1996, joined by producer Mark Trombino, chosen as he had just worked on DeLonge's favourite band, Jimmy Eat World's Static Prevails. I was excited but also nervous and intimidated. I felt weird that there were these guys who had sold way more records than I had ever sold, and I'm sitting in the producer's chair telling them what to do. Specifically for Dude Ranch, the band had been influenced by recent listening habits like Jawbreaker, Bad Religion and Lagwagon. The focus for the band beyond anything was to write great songs. Stuff that their young fanbase could instantly relate to, even if there's scatological comedy skits interspersed throughout.
What? It'll clear up. I promise. I got some ointment for it. The doctor says it's not infectious. It'll be gone in a week.
The majority of the album is preoccupied with the ups and downs of teenage relationships.
The songs were definitely what mattered. It was the only goal we ever really set for ourselves as a band, to write great songs. We might not play every show perfectly, we might not hit every note right, we might not have the best performance, but we had good songs.
Dude Ranch was released in June 1997, and pretty much immediately, local alternative stations like K-Rock had started playing Damn It, which fit in with the Green Day and Offspring songs that were cornerstones of their playlists. They gained traction as they toured worldwide alongside Pennywise, Lagwagon and Social Distortion on the Vans Warped Tour in the summer of '97. But after 9 months together on the road, tensions were rising within the band. Rayner was not having a good time. Tired and homesick, he was constantly at odds with his bandmates, and his self-medicating with alcohol was exacerbating the situation. That was the worst tour ever. Nobody showed up. At that time, our drummer had a drinking problem. One show he dropped his sticks 10 times. It was so disturbing to see someone ruining himself. By summer of '98, he was let go, replaced full-time by the Aquabats drummer Travis Barker. More technically proficient than Rayner, Barker learned how to play Blink's set in 45 minutes. The chorus of Adam's song, which would become the next album's third single, was written about Hoppus's depression while on tour. Being acutely aware that he had no one to return to when it finished.
Tom and Travis always had girlfriends waiting back home, so they had something to look forward to at the end of the tour. But I didn't, so I was lonely on tour. But then I got home, and it didn't matter because there was nothing there for me anyway.
As the year petered out, Blink wanted to continue their momentum and were looking at starting on their follow-up. In January 1999, Blink-182 began working on Enema of the State. For producer, they went with Jerry Finn, who had recorded Mutt with them for their American Pie soundtrack. And had also engineered Green Day's Dookie and mixed Jawbreaker's Dear You. The addition of Barker, who completed his recordings for the album in 8 hours, launched the band to the next level. It was like, now anything's possible. We can play any kind of song. Mark and I instantly played better because we were keeping up with someone who played everything perfectly. So we became a lot better at that time. We were nowhere near as good as Travis, but we got better. Lyrically, their songs didn't evolve much, thematically, from what was on Dude Ranch. Topics still included broken hearts, sex, and general immaturity. The main difference was Finn, who helped shape and refine the tracks to pop perfection, along with mixing from Tom Lord Alge, soon to be the go-to guy to polish a pop-punk anthem for radio.
Turn the lights off, carry me home. Come on and kick me. I don't wanna waste my time, become another casualty of society. He was a skater boy, she said see you later boy. She's watching wrestling, creaming over tough guys. If I could find you now, things would get better. We're going down, around. Maybe it's not my weekend, but it's gonna be my year.
Throughout, the songs are infused with youthfulness and summertime fun. DeLonge and Hoppus are able to write perfectly from the point of view of their teenaged audience, because they themselves were them, and still act like them.
We are exactly the same as kids hanging out in high school or junior high, making fart jokes and talking about girls. Tom always wonders, if you gave a 14-year-old kid a microphone and a bunch of people to say something in front of, what would he say? That's us. Although I'm 27.
This could also be why the album is dusted with casual sexism, such as on opener Dumpweed, which sounds like something a 14-year-old minded boy in 1999 would say. However, it's immediately followed by Don't Leave Me, and it's pleading for forgiveness.
One more chance, I'll try this time. I'll give you yours, I won't take mine.
The songs about relationships are the ones their fanbase related to most, like their second single, All the Small Things, which at the time of recording was known as Baby Cake's Buttermuffin.
Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights off.
Or Going Away to College.
I haven't been this scared in a long time.
A lot of people I talk to, especially the girls, like the songs that Mark wrote about relationships falling apart. When we went into this album, there weren't many relationship songs, so I asked Mark to write another breakup song. He came back the next day with Going Away to College.
Don't depend on me to ever follow through on anything.
But another one of Hoppus' songs about relationships going awry and immaturity would be their break into the mainstream. One of the first tracks written for Enema of the State was What's My Age Again. Hoppus had written the iconic arpeggiated opening riff, inspired by the band that had cracked pop-punk into the mainstream.
There's a Green Day song called JAR that's on the Angus soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it starts off with this bass intro that's really rad. And I was messing around on guitar trying to learn that, and I kind of messed up the progression, and I played it incorrectly, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And that was the basis for the opening riff of the song.
Initially, Hoppus had earmarked the new riff for a vulgar joke song in the tradition of Fuck a Dog or Family Reunion.
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, dude, twat.
But the more he played it, the more potential it seemed to have. Lyrically, What's My Age Again is the inverse of Damn It, where Hoppus begrudgingly accepts that he needs to choke down the heartache of seeing his ex with someone else with some maturity.
And I'll smile, and you'll wave, we'll pretend it's
In What's My Age Again, he combats this with a bratty, but why?
Friends say I should act my age. What's my age again? What's my age again?
It's about being in my 20s and acting like a jackass teenager. It is absolutely autobiographical. I still make prank phone calls, insult people, and put my foot in my mouth. I drink too much. I can even eat a half dozen donuts in one sitting. It makes me endearing, especially being in a band, but I'm the biggest letdown.
The theme of not wanting to grow up has been touched on previously in pop punk. But What's My Age Again made it a key trope of the genre. The song is a lesson in efficiency. Hoppus, having taken out a date,
I took her out. It was a Friday night.
caught up on his shows,
She took off my pants, but then I turned on the TV.
prank called her parents,
I said I was the cops and your husband's in jail.
and insulted her mother,
And that's about the time that bitch hung up on me.
all by the 1 minute mark. With the simplicity of pop punk, it's the little differences in the format that stick with you. For example, each chorus of What's My Age Again is subtly altered.
And I still more abuse my TV shows. What the hell is ADD? And I still more abuse my prank phone calls. What the hell is call ID? And you still act like you're in freshman year. What the hell is wrong with me? With many years ahead to fall in line. Why would you wish down on me?
So each time it's more of the same Barker boosted, sugar-coated hook, but with a lyrical twist. Despite the chorus lyrics,
Nobody likes you when you're 23.
Hoppus was 25 at the time of writing, but 23 rhymes with...
Away from me.
The song's original title, Peter Pan Complex, was vetoed by MCA because 1. Peter Pan Complex isn't mentioned in the lyrics, making it awkward for radio listeners to request it, and unlike Damn It, Growing Up,
I guess this is growing up.
and Josie, Everything's Gonna Be Fine,
Everything's gonna be fine.
the band didn't want to add an unwieldy parenthesis, and 2. They feared a lawsuit from Disney, who owned the Peter Pan character. Its video would extend this forever childishness, with the band running through LA in nothing but free shit-eating grins. Though in reality the shooting was a lot less amusing than it was in the planning stages. I was the guy standing naked on the side of the street in Los Angeles, with cars driving by giving me the finger and shit. It's funny watching the video now, but at the time, it stopped being funny 10 minutes in, and it definitely wasn't funny 3 days into it. The grins returned though, when the clip started getting saturation play on MTV.
I would appreciate it if you don't listen to me for the next 2.5 minutes, all right?
What's My Age Again was released as a single in April 1999. It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Modern Rock chart at the end of July, and was held off the top spot for 10 weeks by Red Hot Chili Peppers' Scar Tissue.
With the birds that shed, it's a lonely view.
It would also be the band's first single to appear on the Hot 100, reaching number 58. Enema of the State would go on to sell 15 million albums. While radio play was helpful to Blink's success, a lot of it was MTV. In '99, Total Request Live was a huge deal, a daily rundown of what music videos were hot in the minds of its teenage audience. It would feature the latest clips from pop artists like the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, and NSYNC, but also Blink, and the What's My Age Again video was so very hot. Follow-up single All the Small Things was such a permanent fixture on the Total Request Live rundown that it had to be retired from the list. That video even poked fun at their new contemporaries, no longer the likes of Warped Tour mates, Pennywise, Lagwagon, and Less Than Jake, but now boy bands and pop starlets. And because each member could pass as a more tattooed Backstreet Boy, Blink-182 managed to get something that no other punk band before had managed to achieve, a mostly female audience. Just listen to the Beatlemania style screams throughout their 2000 live album, The Mark, Tom and Travis Show.
You will see me getting sexier and sexier as it gets hotter and hotter, you know? And what?
Blink-182 were a punk dividing line, for better or worse.
We really try not to spend too much time thinking about what we're supposed to be. You know, if we're supposed to be a punk band, if we're supposed to be whatever. We do the exact same thing today, and we're playing for a lot more people, but we're still writing the same kind of music, still doing the same things we always have. If we say, yeah, we're a total punk band, then there's going to be 1,000 people that say, okay, here's all the reasons why you're not punk, and they're going to list them off.
But we have a couple of reasons why we are.
A band who took the attitude, speed, and need to piss people off from their ancestors, but rejected the feminism, anti-corporate values and integrity of the early 90s wave of Nirvana, Riot Grrrl and Fugazi. The latter befuddled the Blink boys by their DIY ethics. They play for only $5. They can easily go $15 and still sell out every venue and make shitloads. But that's not what they want to do. Personally, I think that's stupid. Many hated that Blink-182 is what punk now meant. Kerrang's 1999 review of What's My Age Again showed they weren't fans. Million-selling yank fuckwits. With their moronic sense of humour and corporate approach, Blink-182 stand for just about everything that sucks about punk rock as we approach the millennium. In many ways, they were just hair metal all over again, complete with its overt misogyny.
I want to see all the titties in the house. Titties in the house represent!
Something they eventually retired after realizing how young their fanbase had become.
Boobies!
Stop it. No.
Bad, you are too young.
You're way too young.
The fact that Blink-182 could become pop-level huge meant that we would get a new wave of snotty yet sugary bands in the Blink mode, all trying to achieve their level of fame while maintaining some of their more troubling qualities. And it all started with Enema's introductory single. Said Pierre Bouvier from Simple Plan, in 1999, What's My Age Again pushed the pop side even further and was all over mainstream pop radio around the world. You couldn't turn the dial without hearing it. As overworn as the genre has become, on the verge of 2000, Blink-182 were a breath of fresh air. At the same time of their first UK gigs, the best comparison Melody Maker could make was to the more fleet-footed tracks from Scottish alt-rock group Idlewild. Whatever backlash there may have been, and despite the many, many lesser bands that they inspired, Blink-182 still created some brilliant, universal pop singles. 20-somethings of any era can relate to not wanting to be the sensible adult all the time. More than 2 decades on, What's My Age Again, All the Small Things, and Adam's Song are still staples of rock clubs and Spotify playlists the world over, because no one encapsulated the confusions of young adulthood better. Blink proved that no one should take themselves so seriously, and that no one likes you when you're 23. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Are Blink the root of all evil and punk? Or do you think they're the best band ever? Let me know down below. If you like this video, why don't you do me a favour and share it with a couple of people? This way I don't have to rely on YouTube to push my videos. Thanks to Mike the Snare for voicing Mark Hoppus. If you like my channel, you'll love his. His deep dives on Paramore and Weezer are especially recommended. I'd also like to give a shout out to my new top tier patrons, AD Shaw, Marty Hergertz and Brian Elliott. Thanks a bunch to all that support me, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for that video I teased last time.